Thank you for joining and watching the session for preparing for the SACSCOC on-site peer review visit, Principles of Accreditation Standard Reviews for Interviews. The slide set will cover principles in section 10. This will include principle 10.2, 10.5, 10.6, and 10.7, as well as principle 10.8. Some important dates, if you haven't already added them to your calendar, I ask that you do so. Our on-site visit will be March 25th or the 28th, with interviews primarily taking place on the afternoon of March 26th and the morning of March 27th. Thursday, March 28th is when the exit interview or exit conference will occur in the hotel meeting room with Dr. Rudin and others. And then in December 2024 is when we'll learn the final results of reaccreditation presented at the SACSCOC annual meeting in Austin, Texas. The purpose of the on-site Reaffirmation Committee visit is for the committee members to review and validate A&M Commerce compliance with the SACSCOC Principles of Accreditation. This is done through the review of compliance certification, including the Reaffirmation Compliance Report submitted in September and the Focus Report submitted in February. While they're here, they will tour the campus, conduct interviews with faculty, staff, and students, and tour off-campus instructional sites. They will also review the Quality Enhancement Plan. As a reminder, our mission statement at this time is Educate, Discover, Achieve. Moving on to standard 7.2, which is the QEP standard, it states that the institution has a quality enhancement plan that A, has a topic identified through ongoing comprehensive planning and evaluation processes, B, has broad-based support of institutional constituencies, C, focuses on improving specific student learning outcomes and/or student success goals, D, commits resources to initiate, implement, and complete the QEP, and E, includes a plan to assess achievement. The resource manual goes on to clarify that the Quality Enhancement Plan is an integral component of the reaffirmation of accreditation process and is derived from an institution's ongoing planning and evaluation processes. For A&M Commerce, it reflects and affirms a commitment to enhance overall institutional quality and effectiveness by focusing on an issue that A&M Commerce considers important to improving student learning outcomes and/or student success. Our QEP is titled Foundation for Your Future and is a career management, career preparedness focused QEP. I'm not going to read through these items exhaustively. This is more information from the SACSCOC Resource Manual for Standard 7.2. I do want to point out that each of these bullets aligns with elements in the Principle of Accreditation, and the additional information underneath provides more explanation and insight into each of them. The QEP will be rolled out in 3 phases, with phase 1 beginning in fall 2024. Phase 1 is called Foundation, and this is to provide students with a solid career foundation as they begin college. Elements at this stage will be embedded in general education courses and career courses at the lower level within the majors, with appropriate non-academic assessments and activities occurring. Phase 2 is the framework, and this builds upon the solid foundation to provide students with skills, content, and competencies for a successful future. It also assists to prepare students for the possibility of a Plan B. Imagine, if you will, students coming into A&M Commerce and wanting to be teachers or educators. They begin taking their education classes and decide that they don't actually want to work with students. Plan B, or phase 2, will help students plan for that Plan B and pivot to use their courses and accomplishments towards another degree. At this stage, we're looking at embedding major-specific courses in mid-level major courses, and appropriate assessments and activities will be occurring academically and non-academically. Phase 3 is the final phase, and it's titled Capstone. This will launch students successfully into their career as a synthesis of prior learning from the foundation and framework phases. This will explore capstone courses and experiences such as internships, clinicals, student teaching, and practicums. And again, additional appropriate assessments and activities will be taking place both academically, non-academically, curricularly, and non-curricularly. Some important additional information about the QEP is that we're looking at courses in each major. This is important because the QEP is open and applicable to all students at the university, regardless of location, modality, level, or major. We're also looking at developing a non-academic micro-credential called the Career Ready micro-credential. This will be available to students who to complete their non-academic elements of the QEP. Non-curricular activities will be primarily overseen by the Office of Student Career Preparedness with Arthur Lumsey. Though the QEP is open to all students at A&M Commerce, both online, offsite, and on campus, there will be a specific focus group for data and research of our first-generation students, so that's looking at first-time, full-time, first-gen. We're also looking at developing a first-generation mentorship program between first-generation faculty or staff, or those faculty and staff interested in supporting first-generation students, and those first-generation students. If you're asked about the QEP, if you're interested in knowing more, some things to consider, our thought processes to begin is asking, are assessment plans robust and reasonable? Are there sufficient institutional resources, and if yes, what are they? What form does faculty involvement take with the QEP, and how will learning or achievement be assessed in the QEP? If you'd like to learn more about the QEP, these questions, or anything else regarding the Quality Enhancement Plan, please don't hesitate to reach out to Dr. Eric Branscombe, who is our QEP Director. The Department of Education has 20 unique standards that all institutions are required to speak to during the on-site visit. These go from standard 5.4, qualified administrative and academic officers, to standard 14.4, representation to other agencies. We are found non-compliant with 18 standards of principles of accreditation. I do want to assure you that this is definitely an average number. These vary from standard 2.1, institutional mission, to standard 13.8, institutional environment. Amongst those 20 DOE and the 18 non-compliant standards, we have a total of 30 combined standards for interviews. I do want to clarify that these interviews will be grouped by sections. So for example, all the standards, all the principal 6s will be together in one group, all the principal 14s will be together in one group, etc. Specifically looking at the principles that make up section 10 now, 10.2 reads, the institution makes available to students and the public current academic calendars, grading policies, cost of attendance, and refund policies. The SACSCOC resource manual notes that good educational practice suggests that the institution's constituents be informed about matters such as academic calendars, grading policies, and refund policies. Such policies and calendars are widely published and widely distributed. In our compliance certification, we stated that Texas A&M University Commerce makes the institution's academic calendars, grading policies, cost of attendance, and refund policies available to students and to the public. These were additionally described in the undergraduate and graduate catalogs and maintained and regularly updated on the university website. Information is readily accessible in a timely fashion for downloading, reviewing, printing, or emailing. The calendar, grading policies, cost of attendance, and tuition refund policies were described for SACSCOC reviewers, and their location in the process of navigation on the institutional website was included in the narrative. This information is also available to all students regardless of location or modality. With regards to this principle, you're being interviewed or asked about it. Some questions or things to consider is, how does the institution make current academic calendars, grading policies, and refund policies available to students and other constituents? Are these policies made available across all delivery locations and modes of instruction? And are there separate policies for graduate and undergraduate students? I do want to clarify that the questions that are posed in these slides are not exhaustive. There might be questions that SACSCOC reviewers ask that I haven't thought of or that we haven't prepared for. But these are good jumping off points to think of things to address or consider in these conversations. We go on to look at standard 10.5. This was a finding in noncompliance and is a Department of Education standard. It reads, the institution publishes admission policies consistent with its mission, ensures that its recruitment materials and presentations accurately represent the institution's practices, policies, and accreditation status, ensures that independent contractors or agents used for recruiting purposes and for admission activities are governed by the same principles and policies as institutional employees. The SACSCOC Resource Manual rationale notes to go on to state that sound admission policies are defined in relation to the institution's mission and are designed to ensure that students who are admitted to the institution or to a specific program can benefit from those programs. Implicit in the policy is that the institution consistently applies the policy to all applicants and transfers. Exceptions are limited in number and based on specific criteria. Further, regarding admission policies, it states that those policies for institution or specific program conform to widely accepted higher education standards for admission and define all admission categories used by the institution. Admission policies are published in official documents and communicated accurately and effectively to prospective students and other constituents. Additionally, it goes on to say that all accredited higher education institutions or individuals acting on their behalf, those would be our third-party vendors, must exhibit integrity and responsibility in student advertising and recruitment. Responsible self-regulation requires rigorous attention to principles of good practice. In our compliance certification, we stated that Texas A&M University Commerce publishes admission policies that are consistent with the university's mission to educate, discover, and achieve. But we consider ourselves to be an agent of opportunity, particularly for those persons residing in the Northeast Texas region, and seek to provide a transformative educational experience for students. Accordingly, the admission standards and policies of the university have been designed to identify students who show potential for academic success and welcome them. The design and review process for undergraduate and graduate recruitment materials and marketing is described in the submission, as is a review for CBE courses and programs. Examples of materials and discussion of recruitment personnel and admission activities were also included. There was a SACSCOC finding of noncompliance. It stated that our recruitment materials and presentations appear to accurately represent the institution's admission practices, that these policies and academic programs are consistent with our institutional mission. It goes on to say, the institution provides admission instructions for prospective students, transfer students, graduate students who may have unique circumstances and have to find those. However, it did note that the institution provided a statement describing its relationship with an independent contractor for recruiting and admission purposes and activities, but that the off-site Reaffirmation Committee could not find evidence that independent contractors are governed by the same principles and policies as institutional employees. In our focus report response, we provided an expansion on the recruitment and marketing coordinated or designed by third-party vendors. Recruitment events for A&M Commerce students or prospective students are overseen and staffed by A&M Commerce employees. StatWax, previously Trinity Mines, had an agreement submitted with a discussion of their adherence to university branding guidelines and adherence to university policy and procedure. And it was further clarified that digital marketing campaigns do not run without final approval from the Marketing Communication Division, and that there is ongoing work between MARCOM and the Office of Institutional Effectiveness to help ensure accuracy of information and adherence to university principles and policies. If you're a part of these conversations, some questions or things to consider, which again is not an exhaustive list, but are good jumping off points, is what are the basic admission requirements that apply to all students? What are the admission policies for specific programs, and how are these policies based on widely accepted standards for undergraduate and graduate applicants? Are these policies consistent with the mission of the institution, and how are exceptions to policies controlled and documented? Do recruitment materials and presentations accurately represent the institution's practices, policies, and academic programs? What is the approval process for recruitment materials and presentations, and is it followed? This might expand to ask who is involved in this process and how is it communicated if it does not follow approval. What are the guidelines for using independent contractors or agents in recruiting students? They might ask if these guidelines assure that independent contractors and agents are governed by the same policies and principles for admission activities as they are for institutional employees. Looking at standard 10.6, again, this was an area of non-compliance and is a DOE standard. It states that an institution that offers distance or correspondence education, A, ensures that the students who register in a distance or correspondence education course or program is the same student who participates in and completes the course or program and receives the credit. B, has a written procedure for protecting the privacy of students enrolled in distance and correspondence education courses or programs. C, ensures that students are notified in writing at the time of registration or enrollment of any projected additional student charges associated with verification of student identity. The SACSCOC Resource Manual rationale notes go on to say that in order to protect the integrity of educational credentials awarded to students enrolled in distance, online, or correspondence education, that an institution takes measures to ensure that the student awarded credit in those programs is the same student who successfully completes the course and is tested for achievement of those learning outcomes. To this end, an institution is required to verify the identity of a student enrolled in distance or correspondence education, ensure the method used to verify the identity protects the privacy of the student, and notify the student in advance of enrollment regarding any projected additional costs associated with that verification process. Our compliance certification talked about and covered technical controls for verifying student identity for distance and correspondence education, which included a secure login and password and the Duo single sign-on. Physical controls such as the line card and the issue of a CWID were included. It was clarified that students must apply a government-issued photo ID or comparable credentials in order to receive their university photo ID card, and that students use their CWID for identification of faculty, for logging into secure web pages and services, and for recovering secure information. It was also clarified that appropriate administrative control and institution procedures and policies were discussed, such as the Security Control Standards Catalog, the Texas Administrative Code, the Texas A&M University System Standard for Acceptable Use, and how they apply and impact policies and procedures and operations here at A&M Commerce. Regarding SACSCOC offsite findings and noncompliance, it clarified, in addition to how we follow the policies and procedures and the principle itself, that the compliance certification states that no student fees are charged for verification of student identity in distance education, and that the institution provides notification of associated charges. However, they were not able to locate evidence of such notification. In the focus report response, we specifically targeted those concerns. We clarified that charges associated with verification of student identity are not included in student fees. Information about the student fees is published on the admissions webpage, and an example of that information was included for their review. Some instructors require that students complete exams or other work in a proctored environment. We clarified and provided that depending on how the student fulfills this requirement, they might incur additional expense for the utilization of a third party to provide that secure environment. An explanation of those fees related to third-party exam proctoring is included in the undergraduate catalog and the graduate catalog, with examples additionally provided for their review. We further clarified that courses that require exams to be completed in a proctored environment include a statement in scheduled classes, and provided examples of those as well for review. Regarding this principle, some things to consider or questions to ask yourself and others is, how does the institution demonstrate that the student who registers in distance or correspondence education course or program is the same student who receives the credit? If distance or correspondence education students never come to campus, how is their identity initially confirmed? If the institution utilizes a name and password, how does the institution ensure this information is not shared by the student when taking online examinations? What other elements regarding academic integrity might be shared or expected of students? Because the institution is obligated to select a verification method for identifying students enrolled in the courses or programs through distance education, how does the institution protect the privacy of those students? And then finally, do the institution's written procedures for notifying students and projected additional costs associated with verification conform to the standard, and how are this communicated? Standard 2.7 goes on to say that the institution publishes and implements policies for determining the amount and level of credit awarded for its courses, regardless of format or mode of delivery. These policies require oversight by persons academically qualified to make the necessary judgments. In educational programs not based on credit hours, the institution has a sound mean for determining credit equivalencies. The SACSCOC Resource Manual Rationale Notes goes on to clarify that good educational practices in higher education assume that institutions adopt sound and generally acceptable policies and procedures for determining what a credit unit means for graduate and undergraduate coursework, taking into account the amount and level of credit. Students, institutions, employers, and others rely on the common currency of academic credit to support a wide range of activities, including the transfer of students from one institution to another. It goes on to state that while the standard is not prescriptive as to an organizational structure to make determination of academic sufficiency, there is a clear expectation that these decisions are made by appropriately qualified faculty and personnel. Policies related to determining the amount and level of credit should go beyond the expectation that courses are taught in a traditional seat time fashion, and that should include those definitions. In our compliance certification, we stated that A&M Commerce has and follows appropriate procedure and policies for establishing and awarding credit, and follows guidance from the external agencies, including the Department of Education Standard, the SACSCOC Credit Hour Policy, and the TGSP Glossary of Terms. A definition for the semester credit hours defined in the undergraduate and graduate catalog, and applicable external and internal policy and procedures were provided as proof of adherence to the principle of accreditation. With regards to this policy and procedure, some questions or things to consider might be, what is the institution's definition of a credit hour or its equivalent? Is this definition consistent with commonly accepted practices in higher education? We might ask, what are the institution's policies related to assigning amount and level of credit for the courses? Are these policies and procedures published in an accessible manner? Are students or other external constituencies able to access them? What is the institution's course numbering and naming system? What are the policies that determine the level and amount of credit awarded for undergraduate and graduate coursework delivered through distance learning, education, and technology? What is the oversight structure for course approval? What is the role of faculty in reviewing academic credit awarded, and what are their credentials? In developing policies related to the amount and level of credit awarded, how does the institution use the standard of professional organization or practices of peer institutions? Again, it's worth noting that these questions are not exhaustive, and there may be other questions posed or other topics of conversation that arise during this time. Looking at standard 10.8, it reads, the institution publishes policies for evaluating, awarding, and accepting credit not originating from the institution. The institution ensures A, the academic quality of any credit or coursework reported on its transcript. B, an approval process with oversight by persons academically qualified to make the necessary judgments. And C, the credit awarded is comparable to a designated credit experience and is consistent with the institution's mission. At A&M Commerce, again, our mission is educate, discover, achieve. The SACSCOC resource manual and rationale go on to state for this standard, but the key lies in the institution's obligation to ensure academic quality and ensure comparability. Since by awarding credit for learning outside our own educational programs, an institution affirms that students have achieved the knowledge, skills, and experiences comparable to those attained by students who have completed our own courses. The standard also applies to approval of transfer credit, including articulation agreements for transfer of credit, advanced placement, credit by examination, experiential learning, prior learning assessment, conversion of prior non-credit experiences, or similar situations where credit is awarded for learning not originating from the institution itself. Policies and procedures related to this standard should be approved through appropriate channels and should be published so they're accessible. And a sound academic practice typically involves qualified faculty participation in the evaluation of credit in addition to the staff that are credentialed to do so. Our compliance certification stated that Texas A&M University Commerce has defined and published policies for evaluating, awarding, and accepting credit and ensuring that all coursework is at the collegiate level and comparable to our own degree plans. It went on to say that A&M Commerce ensures that transfer credit is aligned with content taught at the university and comparable to the courses used by using multiple cross-checks. Definitions and expectations for undergraduate and core curriculum credit transfer were detailed as they were for credit by examination and graduate coursework. Regarding international student transfers, we spoke about the review of credit for international coursework requires that the foreign transcript be sent to an independent credential evaluations agency before the student is considered for admission to A&M Commerce. This is also explained on the International Student Admission webpage. For a transfer by admission, transcripts are evaluated on a course-by-course and semester-by-semester basis. Regarding the findings of noncompliance for the standard, SACSCOC stated that while documentation provided reflects widespread publication of appropriate policies developed and overseen by academically qualified personnel and units, the Offsite Reaffirmation Committee was not able to locate examples of the implementation of the policies. Our focus report response was targeted in speaking to additional examples at the undergraduate level for transfer credit and international transfer credit, along with master's and doctoral level transfer credit. It is stated that international graduate level transfer work is not accepted for transfer by the institution. This was clarified and confirmed by the graduate school. We additionally added that regardless of the means or pathway through which potential transfer credit is reviewed, in each case, individuals who are academically qualified are engaged in the review and approval process for credit to be awarded for courses completed at another institution. With regards to the standard and during these conversations, some things to consider or questions to think of is what are the institution's policies for evaluating, awarding, and accepting transfer credit, advanced placement, experiential learning, etc. Are these policies published in ways that make them accessible to those affected by the policies? Are the policies and procedures consistent with the mission of the institution, which is educate, discover, achieve? How are the policies developed and evaluated to ensure comparability to the institution's own courses and degree programs? And additionally, what is the role of faculty in reviewing academic credit awarded in addition to those staff members who are credentialed and qualified to do so? Some additional questions might be, how does the institution ensure accepted coursework and learning outcomes at the collegiate level? How does the institution demonstrate responsibility? This might be credit awarded under articulation agreements, transfer credit, etc. How does the institution ensure that students receiving credit for such programs have achieved the same knowledge, skills, and experiences of those who have completed its own coursework? Let me wrap up by saying thank you so much for reviewing this video and for being part of this process. Our successful reaffirmation is due to the work that you do every day. We would not be where we are without you. As always, if you have any questions, would like to speak with myself or Dr. Ricky Dobbs regarding SACSCOC reaffirmation, or if you would like a one-on-one session for your department or division, please do not hesitate to reach out. We are here for you. Thank you again, and I hope you have a wonderful day.